Ireland, a land of rugged beauty and ancient tradition, is often remembered for its resilience and strength. But it is also a land marked by deep scars, none more painful than the Great Irish Famine. Between 1845 and 1852, a catastrophe unfolded that would reshape the nation forever. Over 1 million people perished from hunger and disease, while another million fled, scattering to the corners of the world. But the famine was more than a natural disaster. It was a human tragedy shaped by indifference, exploitation, and suffering. In the decades before the famine, Ireland's population had swelled to over 8 million. Most were tenant farmers, renting small plots of land from absentee landlords. Their survival depended almost entirely on a single crop, the potato. But this heavy reliance on one crop left the population vulnerable. If the potato failed, there was no backup. While the peasantry lived in poverty, the landowners lived in luxury. Many landlords were based in England, rarely visiting their Irish estates. This stark inequality set the stage for disaster. In 1845, the first signs of disaster appeared. Farmers noticed that their once healthy potato crops were turning black and slimy. The culprit was Phytophthora infestans, a fungal pathogen that caused potato blight. The blight spread rapidly, devastating crops across Europe. But in Ireland, where millions relied on the potato as their primary food source, the impact was catastrophic. In 1845, nearly half the potato crop failed. By 1846, the entire harvest was lost. Hunger quickly spread. Families began selling their few possessions to buy food. But for most, there was little food to be had, and famine set in.
Please. Please.
In County Mayo, Patrick and Mary Donnelly lived on a small plot of land, barely growing enough potatoes to feed their 3 children. When the blight struck, their crop was ruined. Desperate, Patrick walked miles to the nearest market, hoping to find food. But there was none. When he returned home, he found that their youngest child had succumbed to hunger. Within weeks, 2 more children followed. Mary, overcome with grief, died soon after. Patrick buried his family in unmarked graves, too weak to dig deep enough to keep the wolves away. His story is just one of countless tragedies that unfolded during the famine. In the small village of Clonbur, nestled between Lough Mask and Lough Corrib, lived the O'Malley sisters. Bridget, aged 12, and her younger sister Aisling, aged 7. Their father had passed away years before the famine, leaving their mother to care for them on a small rented plot of land. By the winter of 1846, their potato crop had failed entirely. The family survived on scraps of nettles and dandelions, boiling them into a thin, bitter soup. Their mother, already frail, grew weaker by the day. One fateful night, their mother passed away, leaving Bridget and Aisling completely alone. Too young to understand the full gravity of their situation, the sisters decided to walk to the nearest market town, believing they might find help. After 3 days of walking, with no food and little rest, the sisters collapsed by the roadside. A kind passerby found them and brought them to a nearby workhouse. But it was too late for Aisling. She succumbed to exhaustion and hunger that night. Bridget survived for a few weeks in the workhouse, but was too malnourished to recover. She passed away quietly, joining her sister in death. Their story, like so many others, was lost in the tide of famine, a silent testament to the suffering endured by Ireland's most vulnerable. The British government's response to the famine has been a source of controversy for generations. Under the prevailing ideology of laissez-faire economics, officials believed that market forces should determine the response to the crisis. Charles Trevelyan, the official in charge of famine relief, famously described the famine as a mechanism for reducing surplus population. Relief efforts were minimal, and food exports from Ireland continued even as people starved. The government imported Indian corn, but it was difficult to prepare and lacked essential nutrients. For many, it was too little, too late. Ellen Conway, a widow from County Galway, walked miles to a relief depot, hoping to receive rations. There, she was forced to break stones for hours, despite being frail and starving. One cold morning, Ellen collapsed, too weak to continue. Her body lay by the roadside for hours before anyone noticed. She died alone, her death a symbol of the callous indifference that characterized much of the relief effort. As the famine worsened, disease spread rapidly. Workhouses, intended to provide refuge, became death traps. Typhus, dysentery, and cholera claimed as many lives as hunger. Entire families perished within the walls of these overcrowded institutions. The dead were often buried in mass graves, their names lost to history. For many, the only escape was emigration. But the journey across the Atlantic was perilous. These overcrowded coffin ships were breeding grounds for disease, and thousands died at sea. Those who survived arrived in foreign lands, often penniless and alone, but they carried with them the hope of a better life. On board the Jeanie Johnston, an emigrant ship bound for Canada, a group of orphans clung to hope. Their parents had perished in the famine, and they had only each other. Despite the efforts of the compassionate crew, many succumbed to disease. Those who survived landed in a strange new world, forever separated from the only home they had known. By the time the famine ended in 1852, Ireland's population had been reduced by nearly a quarter. Its effects would be felt for generations. The famine fueled Irish nationalism and deepened resentment toward British rule. It left behind a legacy of loss, resilience, and a diaspora that would shape the world.